Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're hopping into the fascinating world of frogs.
Frogs.
Yeah, frogs. And you know what? This whole deep dive was inspired by a YouTube video.
Really?
Yeah, a video that's actually made for kids. But believe me, it's packed with incredible frog facts that I bet will surprise even the biggest frog enthusiasts out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
So get ready to learn a thing or two about these amazing amphibians.
You'd be surprised how often we underestimate the complexity of these seemingly simple creatures.
That's so true.
Like, for instance, did you know there are over 7,000 species of frogs?
Wow. 7,000.
And they're found almost everywhere on Earth except Antarctica.
That's mind-blowing.
It is.
And speaking of mind-blowing, there was something in the video that totally caught me off guard.
Oh.
Okay, so you know how we always think of frogs and toads as being totally different?
Right.
Like separate categories?
Yeah,
Well, get this. Toads are actually just a type of frog.
that's right. All toads are frogs.
No.
But not all frogs are toads.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it all comes down to certain characteristics, like their skin texture and their habitat preferences.
Okay, that's definitely something I didn't know.
It's a common misconception.
So before we hop too far ahead, let's break down the basics. What exactly makes a frog an amphibian?
Good question. So, unlike reptiles, who are fully adapted to life on land, amphibians, like frogs, straddle the line between water and land.
I see.
Their life cycle, their skin, even their breathing mechanisms, they all reflect this kind of dual nature.
Wait, dual breathing mechanisms. Are you saying frogs have some sort of secret breathing technique?
Well, it's not exactly a secret, but it is pretty amazing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
While frogs do have lungs, they actually absorb most of their oxygen through their skin.
No way. So they're like breathing underwater A and D on land at the same time?
Pretty much, yeah. Their skin is incredibly permeable, especially when it's moist. And this allows oxygen to pass directly into their bloodstream.
That's incredible.
And it works the other way around, too. They can release carbon dioxide through their skin as well.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly. And this is why it's so critical for them to stay hydrated. If their skin dries out, they can't breathe properly.
That makes total sense now. So that's why they're always hanging out near ponds and streams, right?
Exactly.
And I remember learning that some frogs even hibernate underwater for months.
That's true. During hibernation, their metabolism slows way down, and they can actually get enough oxygen just through their skin to survive submerged for extended periods.
Wow, that's a pretty remarkable adaptation.
It is.
Speaking of adaptations, we have to talk about their hunting skills.
Oh, yes, their tongues.
Those lightning-fast tongues, they're insane. The video showed how they can catch a bug in like less than a blink of an eye.
Their tongues are one of the fastest muscles in the animal kingdom, actually.
Wow.
And not only are they incredibly fast, but did you know they're also super sticky?
Sticky.
Yeah, that stickiness is key to actually capturing their prey.
So it's like a combo of speed and stickiness.
Exactly. A very effective hunting strategy.
I can imagine.
But it's worth noting that not all frogs rely solely on speed for survival. Some have developed a different kind of defense mechanism.
You're talking about those brightly colored poison dart frogs.
The rice. Yeah.
The ones that are so tiny but pack a seriously dangerous punch.
Those are the ones found in Central and South America. They're a perfect example of how nature uses color as a warning signal.
So their bright colors are basically like a big "don't eat me" sign.
You could say that. It's a phenomenon called aposematism, where the vibrant colors act as a clear signal to any potential predators that these frogs are toxic and definitely best avoided.
It's like nature's own stop sign.
It's a brilliant evolutionary strategy that benefits both the predator and the prey.
And it makes you wonder, how can such tiny creatures, some even the size of the thumbnail, how can they create such potent poison?
It's a complex chemical cocktail that they secrete through their skin. And in some species, just a tiny amount can be deadly to a human.
Wow, that's a reminder that even the smallest creatures can be incredibly powerful. Okay, so we've talked about their breathing, their hunting, their defenses. Now let's shift gears and talk about their life cycle. Because you have to admit, the transformation from those jelly-like eggs to a hopping frog is pretty mind-boggling.
It is a truly remarkable metamorphosis. Those jelly-like eggs called frog spawn are laid in water. And unlike bird eggs, they don't have a hard outer shell.
So they're very vulnerable.
They need that moist environment to develop.
And then, of course, comes the tadpole stage, looking more like tiny fish with gills swimming around. It's amazing to think that those little guys will actually transform into frogs.
It's a gradual process.
Like a slow-motion magic trick.
During metamorphosis, the tadpoles develop legs, their tails are reabsorbed, and their gills are replaced by lungs. They're essentially transforming from aquatic creatures to terrestrial
It's
ones.
like they're living two completely different lives. First as those water-breathing tadpoles,
Yeah.
and then as air-breathing, land-hopping frogs.
And this fascinating life cycle, it highlights just how interconnected frogs are to both water and land, truly reflecting their amphibian nature.
Which makes you think about their role in the larger ecosystem, and even their impact on us humans. What does it mean for the environment when we see a frog thriving?
That's a great question and a perfect transition into our next topic. The presence of frogs, or their absence, can tell us a lot about the overall health of an ecosystem.
Okay, let's dive into that.
They're such vital components of the food web.
So they're not just cute and fascinating, they're actually playing a crucial role in keeping things in balance.
Absolutely. We'll explore that in more detail in just a moment. So frogs are really important for keeping things balanced in the ecosystem.
Yeah, they're not just cute and fascinating, they're actually playing a crucial role in keeping everything running smoothly.
Absolutely. They're a vital part of the food web, both as predator and prey.
Okay.
As predators, they help keep those insect populations in check, which can have a cascading effect on the entire food chain.
So if there are fewer frogs, there could be more insects, which could then impact plants and other animals down the line.
Exactly. And on the other side, as prey frogs provide a food source for a variety of larger animals like snakes, birds, even some mammals.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
So their presence or their absence can really send ripples throughout the whole ecosystem.
So they're like these little linchpins holding the whole system together.
They really are.
That's incredible to think about the impact these seemingly small creatures have.
It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
They're like miniature ecological barometers.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a healthy frog population is often a good indicator of a healthy, balanced ecosystem.
Okay, I see.
And conversely, when frog populations decline, it can be a warning sign that something is amiss in the environment.
It's almost like they're sending us a message saying, hey, pay attention, something's not right here.
Precisely, they're like these tiny little environmental detectives alerting us to potential problems.
So it's really important that we listen to them and understand what they're trying to tell us.
Exactly.
And you mentioned earlier that frogs are facing a lot of challenges these days.
Unfortunately, that's true.
What are some of the biggest issues they're up against?
Well, habitat loss is a major one. As wetlands are drained for development and forests are cleared, frogs are losing their homes and their breeding grounds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pollution is a huge threat as well.
Especially for creatures that breathe through their skin, right?
Absolutely. Pesticides, herbicides, and other pollutants can be absorbed directly into their bodies,
Oh,
leading to all sorts of health problems and even death.
that's awful.
Climate change is another growing concern. It's altering temperatures and rainfall patterns, which can disrupt their breeding cycles
Right.
and make them more susceptible to diseases.
It's like they're getting hit from all sides.
It is, and it's a stark reminder that even the most ancient and adaptable creatures can be vulnerable to the impacts of human activity.
That's a sobering thought.
It underscores the urgency of conservation efforts.
So what can we do? Are there things that like everyday people can do to help protect frogs?
Yeah, absolutely. Individual actions can make a real difference.
Oh, good.
And those actions contribute to a broader shift in awareness and support for larger scale conservation efforts.
Okay, so what are some things that we can do in our own lives to be more frog friendly?
One of the most important things is to reduce our reliance on pesticides and herbicides.
Makes sense.
You know, these chemicals can be really harmful to frogs, even in small amounts.
Right.
So opting for organic gardening methods or using natural pest control solutions can make a big difference.
So it's about being mindful of the choices we make, even in our own backyards.
Exactly.
And what about creating habitats for them?
Oh, that's a great idea. Creating a frog-friendly habitat can be incredibly rewarding.
I remember as a kid, I loved seeing frogs in our backyard pond.
Yeah, even a small pond with some native plants can provide a safe haven for frogs to breed and thrive.
And it doesn't have to be a huge project, right?
No, not at all. You could start with a simple container pond or even a shallow water feature.
I'm already picturing a little frog pond in my backyard.
It would be
It
wonderful.
would be so cool to have those little guys hopping around.
It would. And even if you don't have a backyard, you can still contribute by supporting organizations dedicated to frog conservation.
Right.
There are a lot of groups working tirelessly to protect these creatures and their habitats.
That's good to know.
So it's really about making conscious choices, spreading awareness, supporting the right causes.
It's about realizing that even seemingly small actions can have a ripple effect.
Exactly like those frogs in the ecosystem.
So before we wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of frogs,
Yeah.
let's take a moment to reflect on some of the key takeaways. What stands out to you as like the most important thing to remember about these amazing creatures?
For me, the most striking aspect is the way frogs exemplify the interconnectedness of nature. Their role in the food web, their sensitivity to environmental changes, their fascinating life cycle.
Yeah.
It all highlights how deeply they're woven into the fabric of life on Earth.
They're like a little microcosm of the whole planet.
Exactly.
And it makes you realize that protecting them is about so much more than just saving one species.
It's about protecting entire ecosystems, the delicate balance of nature, and ultimately ourselves.
When frogs thrive, it's a sign of a healthy planet.
Absolutely.
And it all started with a simple YouTube video about frogs.
It's amazing how much we can learn from even the most seemingly ordinary things if we just take the time to look a little closer.
I know I'll never look at a frog the same way again.
Me neither. So what can we leave our listeners with?
Well, how about this? The next time you see a frog, whether it's in a nature documentary, at a local pond, even in a picture, take a moment to consider its journey,
That's nice.
its role in the world, its connection to everything around it.
Yeah. I love that it's like a little mini meditation, a moment of appreciation for these incredible creatures.
Exactly. And maybe it'll even inspire you to think about your own connection to nature
To the natural world.
and how your actions, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Impact the delicate balance of life.
That's a powerful message to take away from what started as a simple video about frogs.
It is, isn't it?
We've gone from sticky tongues and metamorphosis to thinking about our place in the grand scheme of things.
It's amazing what you can learn when you really dive deep into a topic.
And to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and hey, maybe even take a trip to your local pond. You never know what amazing discoveries are waiting even in your own backyard.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of frogs. We'll see you next time for another adventure in learning.
Until then, keep diving deep.